Hi, I'm Ed Makowski from the Water Leadership Institute Class of 25. Our group explored how resilient leadership can turn challenges into strengths with a focus on water rights and access. As water quality professionals, we can have a broad impact on water quality and access. From conservation outreach to new treatment technologies, we can improve both water quality and supply. True resiliency requires leadership, collaboration, and communication. And we had the chance to speak with some industry leaders to learn how they're tackling these challenges. Juliana, could you tell us a bit more about this?
When we talk about water, quality and quantity have often lived in separate silos. But today, that separation no longer makes sense because the water isn't always there. Across the US, water shortages are becoming a defining challenge, not just in the dry West, but increasingly in parts of the East too. And while water quantity has traditionally been the domain for engineers, right holders, and state regulators, it's now a concern for those of us focused on quality. Why? Because you can't treat what you don't receive. Because when flows drop, pollutants concentrate. When drought hits, operational risks arise. When infrastructure is stressed, the margin of error shrinks and quality can get compromised, leaving communities vulnerable. In short, water quality is only as reliable as quantity allows it to be. Water quantity is no longer someone else's job. It's a leadership issue, and water quality professionals have a critical role to play. In many cases, we're the ones holding the operational and public health outcomes in our hands. That's why we brought together a few experts from some water stressed areas in the United States to explore how water rights, leadership, and local conditions are shaping our ability to deliver safe, reliable water now and into the future. In this video, we'll dive into two regional stories: the overallocated Colorado River Basin in the West and the growing water stress facing communities in the East. We'll also discuss one of the most interesting innovations currently being implemented in North America to face some of these water shortages challenges. But before, we need to understand how water rights and access work throughout the United States. Take it away, Maddie.
Hi there. My name is Madeleine Harris. I'm going to talk a little bit more about water rights, both general and thus specifically in the Western United States. As far as general water rights go, every region faces water challenges, of course. The question of how that water is governed, however, varies dramatically, and those legal frameworks shape who gets water when and how much they're able to receive. In the United States, there are two primary systems that define water rights, and that's riparian rights in the East and prior appropriation system in the West. I live in Colorado, so I'm going to start by explaining a little bit more about the Western water rights system, where the Colorado River Basin exemplifies what happens with legal rights, dwindling supply, and how those high stakes collide. In the Western United States, water rights are governed by a system called prior appropriation, which is originally born from the concept of scarcity. How prior appropriation rights work is the first person who diverts water and puts it to a beneficial use is able to secure that senior right. Even if you live next to the river, someone who lives downstream with an older claim may get priority over you. This system has enabled agriculture in cities in the West to grow, even if they're not necessarily right next to water. However, it's also locked many communities into century-old hierarchies that no longer reflect today's realities.
In the East, where water has traditionally been more abundant, riparian rights apply. If your land touches a water body, you have the right to use it, as long as it's reasonable and doesn't harm your neighbors. It's like a cookout. Everyone at the table gets to share a meal, no hoarding, no over-serving. It's communal, flexible, and based on mutual respect.
However, as shortages grow, both systems, prior appropriation and riparian, are under stress. Maddie and Lenai, please tell us what's happening in the West and East.
At this time, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Colorado River crisis specifically. The Colorado River crisis is a severe and ongoing water shortage that's affecting the southwestern United States, including the upper basin states of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and New Mexico, as well as the lower basin states, including Arizona, California, and Nevada. This also actually affects an international country of Mexico. So this is a large problem that affects not only multiple states, but multiple countries. If not resolved, this crisis could threaten many vital resources, such as water supplies for over 40 million people, the viability of agricultural lands, critical ecosystems, and major power generation. But first, I'm going to touch on a few of the high-level details that characterize this problem. Firstly, chronic use and overallocation. The 1922 Colorado River Compact, which was the origination of this issue, allocated more water to the states than the river could reliably provide. And this was done based on overestimated flow data at the time. And we've seen demand that's been consistently higher than the available supply, with projections showing a growing deficit as populations and water use increase. Additionally, the region's been experiencing historic and prolonged mega droughts intensified by climate change. We're seeing continued reduced snowpack in the Rocky Mountains, which is the river's main water source, higher temperatures, and increased evaporation, all of which have contributed to diminishing river flows by about 20% overall compared to the 20th century. Additionally, we've been seeing stalled negotiations throughout these states. As this problem worsens, the states have been increasingly trying to come to a solution on how to resolve this problem. Currently, as of 2025, we don't have an exact answer on how these states are going to resolve the issue, but we continue to watch and learn and listen to their discussions to see how they might eventually come to a solution. Additionally, there is indigenous water rights, which are very important. Native American tribes do hold about a quarter of the Colorado River rights, but have historically often been excluded from these key decision-making conversations. Overall, there are clearly concerns with the future of water access and shortage in the Western United States. This is an opportunity for water leaders to step in and really help shape the conversation into the future. We're already seeing that with the Colorado River Basin crisis and how representatives from each state are trying to come together to find a solution. Our team was incredibly fortunate to interview several leaders in this sector. One such leader is Justin Hildreth, Water Resources Engineer with Eagle River Water and Sanitation District in Vail, Colorado. Justin is going to discuss his experience working as a leader in this space and the importance of collaboration. You did mention a lot about the different stakeholders and agencies that you use. Do you have any examples about a time when that effective collaboration actually helped address a crisis or a problem that occurred?
Yes, absolutely. In 2018, we had a drought. I would call it a minor drought, but we were very concerned about our stream flows in the river. So we developed a drought response committee that included all the stakeholders that I mentioned. So that would be the large water users, whether it's the ski area, the golf courses, the towns, and work with them as a partnership to reduce the water use. Because even though a lot of these users are not directly tied to our system, because they use non-potable water, we need to work together to get them reducing water use, so we don't have these impacts to the watershed and the streams.
Absolutely, yeah. Justin mentioned Eagle River watershed, and that's just like one of the many watersheds that ultimately feeds into the Colorado River Basin, which is, as I'm sure we'll talk about more in future videos, like a source of water for millions and millions of people. So every little watershed that's eventually a part of the Colorado River watershed is vitally important to the overall longevity of the West. Throughout the rest of his interview, Justin emphasized the importance of excellent communication with stakeholders, including local governments, large water users, and the community to manage these water shortages effectively and educate the larger community about limited water resources in Colorado. Let's hear Lenai talk about the water rights issues in the East.
Climate change and population growth affect water access in both the East and West, but the challenges in the East are somewhat different due to the use of riparian water rights. Though riparian water rights grant water access to those who own the land near a water body, there is a limitation of what can be considered reasonable use of that water. Reasonable use means that one agency's water use doesn't negatively affect another agency downstream. For example, water disputes between Alabama, Florida, and Georgia over the Apalachicola-Chattahoochee-Flint River Basin have led to what is known as the Tri-State Water Wars. This dispute is primarily focused on Georgia's increased water consumption due to population growth and Florida's subsequent assertion that this has negatively impacted the Florida fisheries. For over a decade, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have been locked in a legal battle over water rights. Despite ongoing disputes, progress has been made. Federal, state, and local stakeholders have come together to form the ACF agreement, a crucial step toward securing water supply for communities across the region. This agreement ensures that even under the worst-case scenarios, local water needs will be met, marking a rare moment of cooperation in a long-standing conflict. This agreement shows what leadership from each stakeholder can accomplish when we listen, talk, and meet in the middle. With the existing water access challenges, leaders in the water industry are constantly coming up with innovative solutions. One promising solution is water reuse. We are fortunate enough to interview Shivaji Deshmukh, the General Manager for the Inland Empire Utilities Agency located in Chino, California.
How does indirect potable reuse help improve water supply resilience? What were or are the water rights considerations for projects like this?
Water recycling has been a great supply for Southern California and throughout the world for a number of decades. IUA has been utilizing recycled water for a long period of time. When you use it for non-potable uses like irrigation or industrial uses, it's a great opportunity to utilize that drought-proof supply. However, you have to use the water when you use it. If you have the luxury of having a groundwater basin like ours, it's very helpful from a storage aspect. Groundwater basins not only are able to store different water supplies, they're able to convey the water, so they're able to move it. And ultimately, the groundwater basin provides an additional level of treatment for the water. So indirect potable reuse is a very important part of our water supply picture here, because ultimately it provides for those three things: treatment, conveyance, and ultimately storage of that water.
Later in the interview, Shivaji walks us through how he tackles some of the biggest challenges to implement innovative solutions, including addressing evolving regulatory requirements, gaining public acceptance of recycled water, and working with other local agencies to implement innovative solutions. One of his key takeaways for success is that every major regional project requires partnerships. This includes partnering and communicating with a wide range of stakeholders, from the local community and surrounding agencies all the way to the regulatory and permitting bodies.
Now that we heard from Justin and Shivaji how collaborative and innovative leadership can alleviate water rights and water access issues, we hope that you found this video very informative thus far. If so, stay tuned for the second video installment in this series. We'll take this conversation further, sharing a practical toolkit for water quality professionals who want to lead on water rights, influence decisions around quantity, and secure resilient access for the communities they serve. Because ensuring safe, clean water isn't just about what we remove, it's also about protecting what we have. See you downstream.